Hi, geographers. Today we are talking about Malthusian theory. This one's a fun one, I think. So we are just about halfway through the content so far. So today's focus is going to be on explaining the theories of population growth and decline, specifically Malthusian theory. So let's go ahead and begin. So Malthusian theory, let's start off with this underlying concept of carrying capacity. So this is something that was already mentioned in one of the earlier objectives. Essentially, it's the amount of population that a location can support without harming the environment. So only as much as that local environment can regenerate to support that particular population. So this is just another way of saying overpopulation. So moving on to Thomas Malthus, the creator of this Malthusian theory. So he lived in England in the 1700s, and from his experiences and observations, one of the things that he noticed was the way that the Industrial Revolution was affecting population. So overall, he was noticing that there's a rising life expectancy and lower death rates. People are lasting longer, not dying as much. Great. So through these observations, he published an essay on the principles of population growth. And essentially, his theory states that population grows at an exponential rate, whereas food production is only at an arithmetic rate. So as you can see here, over time, our human population is growing exponentially, which makes sense, right? That's what he was observing at that time. But food only arithmetically. So eventually, Malthus said, we will reach this point of crisis. This is the point of crisis right here. And once population outpaces food production, then we're going to be in serious trouble. This is going to lead to a lot of issues. Wars and fighting over resources, starvation, and things like that, right? So nothing good. So overall, this is what you guys need to remember. Population exponential growth, food production arithmetic growth, and eventually leads to food shortages, famine, and just not a lot of good things. So here we have Thanos, right, for anybody who's familiar with Marvel, and he would definitely sympathize with Malthusian theory. So in terms of criticism, right, so like spoiler alert, he wasn't totally correct. Factors that have slowed population growth that Thomas Malthus did not foresee. Contraceptives, right, things like birth control, family planning, that was not widespread the way that it is today. And that has been, a big help in slowing population rates. Also, education and advancement of women during his time period, that was just not really a huge factor that was considered into how that could affect population the way that it has. Also, factors that have increased efficiency of farming. So this is a big one, right? Even though that he was around during the Industrial Revolution, and that was definitely a time period when we started to see a lot of advancements for agriculture. Mechanized farming is something that really helped to increase yield. Hybrid seeds absolutely helps to increase yield, and things like chemical fertilizers has really assisted with growing our food supply. Another thing that he did not take into account were new technologies and inventions that now we have, and has allowed our population to continue to grow without worrying about food shortage. More efficient travel to deliver food, and a wider range of consumers without spoiling. So now we have huge trucks that will take food from place to place, refrigerated trucks, all kinds of things, right? Rail cars as well. So food is able to travel further distance, food is able to last longer, which allows us to, supply the population, the growing population. Tin cans, at a time was revolutionary, believe it or not, allows us to preserve food for very long periods of time. So Bostrup's theory, not the same as Malthus, but kind of like an alternative So basically, Boserup said that food supply is impacted directly by population growth. And as our human population increases, we will develop new technologies to make sure that food supply keeps up with this. So Malthus's thought was they're independent of each other. Food supply has its arithmetic growth, population has its exponential growth. Whereas Boserup says because of human population growth, we will figure out and innovate to increase that food supply. So as you can see here, the graph is very different. Population is increasing. And if we look at the food supply trajectory at various points, it's increasing just ahead of population. So essentially saying that our population will be able to keep up with food supply through innovation. So now we have Neo-Malthusians. Neo means new, or like you could think of it as modern day Malthusians. And there are still absolutely concerns about our environment and using it sustainably, and just resources in general are finite and limited, and our population is consuming at a very high rate all these different types of resources. So decreasing birth rates in developed countries is another factor that is considered. The strain on natural resources. So issues like water insecurity, desertification, pollution of our environment are also concerns of Neo-Malthusians, as well as overconsumption in general, like I mentioned, just resources, and then famine and starvation as well, right? So also similar to what Malthus was concerned for, but Neo-Malthusians are more concerned about resources as a whole. And that is all for 2.6, and I will see you guys